Alright guys, issue number 9, it's your friend Dominic. So, yeah, build a Millennium Falcon. Another $10.99, well spent. We're up to 91.42 overall. And this great action shot. You'll see some of the light up features of how this is going to be looking when I'm all finished. Speaking of lighting up, we'll actually be doing some lighting up today. You'll get to see the cockpit in all its glory. Table of contents, ooh, always interesting stuff. Then we have this interesting thing about Tantive 4, the Princess Leia's consular ship, which is a Corellian Engineering Corporation CR-90. It's 150 meters long, which means it's about the length of about 4.5 Millennium Falcons. So that's interesting, I guess. Kind of slow, not only 950 kilometers an hour in atmosphere, as a Class 2 hyperdrive. Way more weapons, though, than the Millennium Falcon. Alright, so it's got that going for it. Talking about the ship as a whole, Captain Antilles, who I didn't actually know was a person from Alderaan. I guess that explains why Wedge Antilles is so gung-ho about destroying the Empire. Talking about Bail Organa, of course, Princess Leia's adopted father, their diplomatic mission to steal the plans for the Death Star. This interesting shot in explaining how this was originally going to be a set piece for the Millennium Falcon, and they scrapped that and built the Millennium Falcon and decided to make this the interior of the ship itself. I love the interior shots of ships we get throughout the whole series. Really gives you an insight of what the Star Wars universe is all about and the technology level. I think even though the ships in the episode 1, 2, and 3, they look, cooler, because we had CGI and, more computer generated, technology. They definitely looked cooler, but at the same time, they did make it a way of showing the ship was an older design, and you could see how designs evolved over time. That was cool. Rebel blockade runner, obviously we see a similar ship being used in episode 1. Then Guide to the Galaxy, we have this article about Tatooine again. So 2 suns, Tattoo, Tattoo 1, Tattoo 2, 3 moons, standard orbit of 23 hours, 304 local days, nearby planets Rhodia and Radnor, number of native species. I guess 5% of the population of Tatooine is Jawa, 5% sand people, 70% human, and then 20% everything else. Number of languages, Huttese, Galactic Basic Standard, Jawese, and Tuscan. Interesting thing, if you don't know this, the Tuscan Raiders, they were called the Tuscan Raiders because they kept attacking Fort Tuscan, which is a fort on Tatooine. Not because they are the Tuscan peoples, they are sand people. That is their technical name and title. Then we have this article about moisture evaporators. Found it interesting that each moisture evaporator only gets about 2 liters of water per day, so you need a bunch of these things to actually even support life and grow crops. I don't know how many moisture evaporators Uncle Ben and Aunt Beru had, but certainly you would need at least 3 of them just to working at peak efficiency, even just to give enough water, bare minimum amount of water just for the 3 of them. Yeah, so that's interesting. Talking about how expensive it is to actually get any services done on Tatooine, because the Hutts obviously are skimming off the top. Some interesting early map shots of what Tatooine was going to look like. Talking about cantinas. and whatnot. Then we have an article about hull structure, talking about Millennium Falcon's hull structure and how it, unlike the Naboo ships that are seamless and shiny and chromed, it's very smooth. This one looks kind of derelict, and that's what Han Solo likes. He likes his ship looking derelict, so he gets kind of looked over. Nobody ever really messes with him because his ship doesn't look like it's in top, form. It's what's underneath that counts, as he says. So, talking about some of the ways that they actually built the exterior, they used hubcaps. You can actually see them in this shot from The Empire Strikes Back. And some tight shots of the actual model and how it'll look when it's all done. Very cool, very cool. And then we go straight into our parts instructions for today. So bag number 9. Let's go ahead and open this and see what we find inside. Alright, so we have this bottom hole piece, go from the biggest to the smallest. This will be a piece for the bottom hole, kind of flimsy actually. Kind of worried about that, so I'll keep that safe for now. This is a hole piece that this will obviously link up to somehow. I'm not sure how that's going to go together exactly, but the instructions will be clear. I've looked over the instructions for today, and I'm not going to be assembling this at all, so I'll actually just put this to the side and worry about it much later on down the line. This piece is another piece that goes to the crew compartment that we were working on. This will go behind the instrument panel. Here we have an entrance port, the actual passageway entrance for the piece that we added in yesterday. So that'll be cool when I get all that done. The main focus today is this battery pack. We're going to be putting that together so we can actually light up the cockpit, and we'll be putting in these light-proof strips into the sleeve where the cockpit sits so that light doesn't kind of flash out. So I'll start assembling that and we'll see what we get. I'm not so sure how necessary of a step this was, but I did do it because the instructions told me to do. But I put this light-proof stripping in. You just had to cut these spots right here for these posts, and then you had to lay it in. I wish they would have given just a diagram to do it, because I had to kind of just eyeball it, and it wasn't a perfect process, but for the most part I got it done. So that's what that looks like all said and done. I have a little piece right here. Taking this thing apart time and time again is really becoming a pain in the butt, so I'm hoping that I don't have to do this too many more times, and I can just glue it together eventually. So let's move on to the next step. So I opened the pack with the battery pack here, so that's what this looks like, and this will actually plug into here, and it'll all go back together. And then I have this extra wire which apparently goes to the underside, so I'll have to save that for later. I have 4 Energizer batteries. Side note, guys, what do you prefer for batteries? I like Energizer, but some people are probably Duracell people. Or maybe they think battery, it doesn't really matter. I find Energizer, you get what you pay for. So the battery pack actually has a screw right here. You have a screwdriver to take it all apart, so that's not a problem. I put the batteries in there. Quite a bit of heft after you add that in. I haven't flipped the light switch on yet. I want to be surprised and when get it all assembled together. So I'm not even checking if it works yet. I'm going to take a gamble and assume it does. So the next step is to actually finally take this bag of pieces that I got a while back and use these as a kit bash and decorate the sleeve with these pieces. So there's 11 pieces here. I'll cut them all out and glue them to the outside hole and show you guys. So there was only 3 pieces that went on this particular side. This little piece right here, this thing right here, this piece right here, and this piece right here. I mean, ultimately I don't know why, for the life of me, why they had to be separate pieces, except maybe they give a little depth, and look like they're not necessarily attached. They had to do it that way. Ultimately, I don't think it adds a lot to it, but it does add something. So let's do the bottom half and see what that looks like. Okay, so I've only put on a few pieces so far. Piece 4, 5, 6, and 7 so far. I recommend you go in the order that they listed them in, because I'm glad I did that, because it would have been very difficult to get into these pieces otherwise. So stick with the actual instructions and you'll get a much better result, I think. So just my heads up. Alright, so I finished putting on the kit bash pieces on this sleeve. You can kind of see these pieces, how these tubes come out, jut out, and they actually add some pretty cool features to it. Overall, that looks really nice. Added a lot of detail to this particular piece. This one, not so much. Like I said, there's only 1, 2, 3 pieces on this one, and then there's 8 pieces on this one. So this is the top, this is the bottom. So I'm kind of surprised by that, but ultimately it is going to make it look nicer. So I'm happy with that. So the next step is to assemble this all back together, and we'll see how that light fixture works. Okay, so now that you have these kit bash pieces affixed to the outer hull, you need to be very careful when you assemble this thing. Hopefully I'm not going to have to take this thing apart ever again. And I thought about this today, actually. I think I'm going to get some, if I don't get it in the kit, I think I'm going to get some like Mylar clear plastic and actually mount it inside here, so to close this all up and make the cockpit look even cooler and more actual sealed. I think that'll look really cool. But for now, it is the moment of truth. We're about to flip this on and see what it looks like. Oh yeah, that is freaking sweet. And looking for light leaks, there's not much of one. That is really sweet, actually. Okay. I really like that. That is neat. It's all lit up and it's off on. Okay, that is awesome. All right, so let's see what else we have to finish before we we call issue 9 all said and done. Okay, so I took that piece I got in this issue and I put the back wall on. Again, it didn't say to do that in the instructions, but I can tell where it went. So I'm just going to clip it into place for safekeeping. When I'm all said and done, I'm actually going to screw these into place. I have holes here where screws will go in, so all the walls will be tight and flush with each other and make a really nice final product. And I will glue everything in place to make it look really sick. One thing I'm noticing though, and I don't think there's going to be any room for it, is there's no chair here that for Han Solo in his famous I don't believe in the Force scene. So that's kind of disappointing, but what can you do, right? So that's coming together nicely. So we'll see what comes next. All right, so after 9 issues, this is what I have assembled so far. Shamefully spilled some water on here. I'm really pissed off about that. I mean, to the point where I might actually go and buy another issue 1 just so I can replace that, because I was hoping to frame that eventually. I knew I shouldn't have brought it out because I was going to ruin it, but I like having this to show you guys. So here is the room I just showed you, the cockpit you saw before, the pieces you've seen numerous times before that. These I got no instructions on this time. I assume I put them together next time. These kit bash pieces I assume are going to go in here as well, along with this. So this all goes with that. The wire that goes underneath, and the hole plating for underneath. So issue 10, which comes next, obviously, we get some more framing pieces and some more underhull, a lot more screws, another wall. So I assume the interior detail, that's going to go right here. So I'll have almost all the walls put up on this thing. It's coming together nicely, and wow, I'm just really excited, guys. So please leave a comment down below. Let me know this time who is your favorite Star Wars character and why. And make sure to comment, like, subscribe if you haven't already. And give me a comment about the Duracell, or about the batteries too, if you prefer Energizer or Duracell, and also what your favorite character is. Start a bit of a conversation on this video. Okay guys, join me next time for issue 10. And as like always, have a nice day.